Well, good evening, and want to invite you to welcome to the show this evening, um, in review special. There's a breaking news which is in Jamaica. Well, I don't know how breaking it is, but it talks about. I just saw this headline published Sunday, June the 29th, that says "Hypocrite or coward." Golden Dawes recalled Holness saying he heard the cries of dead babies amid news spike. Opposition spokesman on health, Dr. Alfred Dawes, is demanding that Prime Minister Andrew Holness take action against Health Minister Dr. Christopherson following the death of at least 24 babies in June at Victoria Jubilee Hospital in Kingston. But there's a bigger news, I must say. I understand that there's a bigger news. There are a couple hundred, I understand, of children who have died. So I'm going to actually bring in Mr. Matunda McCullough and just have a quick discussion on this and to sort of break it down. Thank you. Good evening, Matunda. How are you doing?
I'm good, and you?
Fantastic, fantastic. Can't complain, you know. It's hot, sun is hot, but that's good, and it's good for remind us of yard. You know what I'm saying?
Not this type of, not this type of sun.
Not this type of sun, you know. Um, I just mentioned something there a while ago. I just did a quick glean of a recent news article about 24 babies dead in Kingston of recent days. Well, in Jamaica, but upon speaking, we are talking about there's much more than that.
Yeah, I mean, I've received some information that tells me that it's much more than that. For example,
Hmm.
in 2023, there were, I think, 22 such deaths.
Yes,
In 2024, in December 2024, you're talking about 20 um,
yes.
deaths. In November of the same year, 2024, 10,
Hmm.
that's 30, and then 13 in October, 25 in September, 10 in August, 16 in July, 5 in June, 4 in May, and in April, 8. And the lowest number was in March. There was 1. And then February, there's 14. And January 12. That's 2024. And
Yes,
for the current year, 2025, January was 14, February 7, March you had 9, and April 7.
yes.
May was 8, and of course, we've just today is the 30th of June. We know that we've had 24
Yeah.
for the month of June. So it's not just whilst the 24 in June is certainly alarming. It
Yeah.
if you look at things over a 2-year period at the same institution, and let us be clear, it's one institution, our country's premier, if not the Caribbean's premier pediatric hospital. You have these type of deaths of newly born, whether they're premature or not. It's in any society that would be a an indicator of a crisis at that hospital, if not the health service.
And we're talking the Victoria Jubilee Hospital.
Yeah, the Victoria Jubilee Hospital,
Mm.
incidentally, the very place I was born.
Wow. Yes. 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 Well, but one of the concerning thing though is the level of responsibility and accountability by ministers at the same time in bringing to light this to the nation to dispel the darkness in this particular area, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, for me personally, the Minister of Health, Dr. Christopher Tufton,
Mm.
contributed to the sectorial debate, I think about approximately 2 weeks ago. And in his presentation, I cannot recall him saying a thing about the obvious crisis at the Victoria Jubilee Hospital. And I think that is very telling, because I want to know as a citizen, and I'm sure many of mothers who have unfortunately had this experience, and the
Yeah.
fathers do, the families, they want to know when it is that the minister realized that there was a crisis at this hospital, and why it is that the public was not alerted about this. And the importance of that is this: if there's an expectant mother, she ought to have been told in advance
Mm.
of the obvious crisis. Where you have 20 or 25 in September 2024, when you get to the teens, you must know that there's a problem here, and the public should be told so that persons can make an informed decision as to whether or not they want to continue with the plans to have the maternal care and ultimate
Mm.
delivery at Victoria Jubilee Hospital. So the minister has a ministerial responsibility, a feature of our Westminster system, to tell the nation when it is that he knew that there was a crisis. Now, no one is blaming him individually, but at this stage, I want to know what the minister had known in 2024. It was
Mm.
early February of 2024 when there were 14 such deaths at the same institution. I want to know what the minister had known. And it is very startling to me that the minister should, instead of facing the nation in Parliament on this issue, he has sent out the chief medical officer, a civil servant, effectively, to face the music on this.
To take the
I
chance.
yeah, and that is cowardice, and it's an abdication of ministerial responsibility.
Well, I do know that the health ministry has acknowledged there's an increase, which it says exceeds figures for previous months. And I'm talking about the 14 or so, but we are looking at the bigger picture. And the
Yeah.
same period last year, but ruled out an outbreak, citing complications relating to prematurity and low birth weight.
Well, I mean, as you and I know, you're a father. I'm a father.
Mm. Mm.
Um, children, and I'm not a medical expert. Children born with low birth rate, children born prematurely in 2025. That's a feature of
Yes.
any maternal care unit.
Mm.
Women are induced sometimes 23, 24 months, and in their gestational period, and the children still survive.
Yeah.
But at this stage, when the minister is effectively drip feeding us as to what he or they thinks through the CMO, without an independent public inquiry, then I am forced to say, not good enough, minister.
Yes.
The ministry cannot, in this case, investigate itself because of the sheer numbers
Yeah.
over that 2 year period. We're talking 200 and odd. Because of the sheer numbers, I say it is time for a public inquiry. So the things that they're ruling out,
Mm.
let us have an independent public inquiry, investigate what has happened and what is happening. Because on the surface, it does look, from where I'm looking at it, that there is a crisis.
But this is coming across as if to say that there's a complete, somewhat, disdain to the people of Jamaica and to the citizens of the nation when it comes on to transparency, accountability, and to sort of even link something of recent days whereby the government is sort of holding back in disclosing some bits regarding the FID
Mhm.
and Dennis Chung bit. It seemed like this is a sort of catalyst of actions. I
Well,
don't know. Is it that they are trying to hold off things, uncovering things until before the election?
well, I wish I could say that, but if you look at
Yeah.
the figures for 2024,
Mm.
when we weren't in an election year, say January 2024, when 12 babies died, February 14 died. We weren't in an election mode there. I think
Yeah.
it's a feature of the government where it doesn't think that the people have a right to know. That people do not have a right to know. How can a mother be said to have made a very informed decision
Yes.
about Victoria Jubilee Hospital? Say she was scheduled to have a child in February 2025, but she's not told in August 2024 of the number of deaths there. How could she? How could anyone say that she made an informed decision as basic
Yes.
as that? So
Mm.
it's tempting to say, well, in the midst of we're in the midst of an election campaign, the government wants to protect its reputation, um, and so it doesn't want to disclose information on this, and that is why we haven't seen the minister come up front and one address Parliament on this, an urgent issue, address Parliament on it, make himself available. It's not because it's an election year. It's symbolic of a government that does not take the citizens' right to know seriously.
Now, the government do not take the citizens' right to know, but does the citizens, someone who say ball out, will the citizens arise, or what is it that makes the citizens sort of dumb down? I'm using that sort of term there. Not citizens are not dumb, but dumb down, whereby they do not rise up and take their right. Is it that the lack of knowledge of understanding their right?
Well, you see, we have a democracy that thrives, or a pseudo democracy that really thrives on people being ignorant,
Yes.
people being ignorant, and
Mm,
and that is taking place in the context of the greatest information revolution
mm,
that the world has seen. But you're still operating in a developing country in which people are sometimes forced to concentrate principally
mm.
on what affects them directly.
Yes.
What do I mean by that? Well, if I am on the margins of society economically, I really don't have the time to think about some babies dying at the hospital when none of those babies are mine in the first place. They're not my sisters, they're not my nieces, they're not my cousins. They're just another it's just another stats for them. And
Yes.
that's what you don't encourage active citizenship in a country
Mm,
where you realize that the you are only so far away from the tragedy that has happened to your neighbor, and that
mm.
the existence of these tragedies and the fact that they don't get critical the ministers are not subjected to critical grilling, the fact that they're not subjected to this is a
Yeah.
threat to the very freedoms that we that you enjoy. That's the
Well,
problem, that our
yeah.
citizens are not sufficiently engaged with the society in which they live.
Right. We're using this moment with this quick interview to speak about the baby's death, but also at the same time to speak about the the pending election, which is on the horizon. What is the message? How he's saying for persons need to be aware of and to be cognizant of, and not just be caught up in the fanfares of the blue and the green and the so-called, sorry, the green and the orange, and not to be
Mhm,
so caught up in the fanfare of the, I call it silly season, which I sort of dispute, and I call it the very serious season.
mhm. Well, I think more than any other period, you know,
Mm.
90s post 1962 era, you've never seen more political adverts
Yeah,
from a state entity. You've never seen more political adverts than you're now seeing from an opposition party. So that tells
yeah,
me, in the first instance, that people will have an opportunity to critically analyze what is on offer, because every political meeting is online, so you can
Yeah.
listen. You can listen to a minister of government swearing on a, a hustings, or you can listen to a another person setting out his or her party's stall in terms of what
Mm,
they want to do if they were to come to power. So that's a split screen that you see in there.
yes.
The message I say to those who are on the voters list is one: do not sell your vote, and I literally mean that. Do not sell your vote, because you're engaging in a process that is designed to ensure that those who have the privilege to lead are deserving of that privilege, not
Yeah.
someone or a party that wants to buy its way into Jamaica House. So that's the first message. Do
Yeah.
not be transactional about your vote. Secondly, go away, listen to what is on offer, look at the documents and read them. Don't be too lazy to read.
Mm,
Don't be too lazy to read, or don't be too lazy to listen, even to those with whom you disagree, because ultimately you have to be satisfied that the decision that you make is the best one for the country. Of course, it's going to start: is it the best one for me? Is it the best one for my community? And ultimately, is it the best one for my country? To me, those two messages
mm,
are critical. I'll also add that developing countries like ours
yeah.
have a problem with integrity. We don't seem to think it matters. We don't seem to think that, I won't call it corruption. I heard a
Yeah.
politician call it the thiefing, good old Jamaican parlance, thiefing. It
Yes.
matters. When you don't have enough special educational needs teachers because the country can't afford to train them, when you don't
Mm,
have enough neonatal doctors, when you don't have sufficient specialists in cancer treatment, when you
mm,
don't have roads that are not damaging your front end, a lot of that is linked to the thieving that is going on in government. When you go to the
yes.
hospital, you have to, there's no beds there. You have to lie on the benches. And when you have to wait not
Mm,
6 or 7 hours to be seen, but 72 hours, 80 odd hours, that's the result of thieving. Because if people are not stealing the money, they can employ more doctors, they can employ more teachers, they
yeah.
can fix the roads more often, they can maintain the roads. These are the consequences of thieving. It affects you.
Yes.
Don't reward those who don't put a value on integrity and honesty. Those are my.
And and you know, when we talk about integrity, I sense that persons are not taking it very seriously, but they compare the practical things, the infrastructure, what they're seeing. They're seeing the buildings, they're seeing the roads and everything. And I was listening to, I was reading an article by Miss Kay Osborne, and it was in the Gleaner yesterday, and said Jamaica stands at a critical crossroads where the very foundations of our democratic institutions are under systematic assault. And it goes further, and I'm going to try to see if I can get an interview with her. But I sense upon reading that the integrity bit is at a lower level, Matunda. It is not like something which feeds into the psyche of the Jamaican people. What they are, what the typical vote, and that is why we're talking a lot of time about not going for that 37% who are die-hearted. We're going for that 63% who normally don't go out and engage, and the ones that cannot be bought. Am I not right?
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah. Those are the
I
person which
mean,
are crucial. Yes.
we have to go for any serious political party in this campaign has to go for those voters, and it's only one political party that's talking about integrity and corruption.
Mm,
Government is not talking about it. The opposition talks a lot about it, and you cannot talk too much about it because it robs the country of opportunities. And I don't think
Mm.
that it is something that some voters are not concerned with. It all depends on the
Mm.
socioeconomic bracket within which the voter falls. You know, the closer you are to the political spoils, the less
Mm.
inclined you are to think about those things. The more
Yes.
comfortable you are socio economically and
Mm.
perhaps socially, the more time you have to engage in a serious consideration, a critical consideration of these things. And that is why I keep saying the middle class voter in Jamaica, he or she must make his or her presence felt in this election, because these are the persons, some of them, I must say, who
Mm.
uh, are were displeased with the sort of attempt at defanging the Integrity Commission. Within
Yeah.
that, of course, are some who themselves are within the middle class and are well connected to the pipeline that runs from the public's purse into their
Yes.
individual bank accounts. So
Yes.
it's a conundrum, but within that, I still say that there does exist
Mm.
a number of persons who are in the middle class who themselves want a government that has integrity, because they understand that you cannot have the sustained levels of growth and the challenge to any income inequality unless you can remove corruption out of the and minimize it out of our socioeconomic
Yeah.
affairs.
Well, I tell you what, and that's a good point to really end, because we're going to keep talking about this particular issue and to really jump the whole issue of integrity, because even though the topic is about the 24 babies dead and a combination of all the different factors, and that is much more, but it points down into integrity, points down into accountability, point down into
Yeah,
transparency, whereby ministers of government need to be held responsible to the people of Jamaica, because it's a people that has put them there. You know. Any last
okay.
word, Matunda, before we
I'm,
go? Yeah.
I'm,
Sorry, go on. Yeah.
my last word is I'm wearing pink because I'm
Yeah.
in solidarity with all the mothers
Mm.
who went into Victoria Jubilee Hospital and
Yes.
with a child and came out with a broken heart and a wound, an emotional wound that will take a long time, a very long time to heal. You
Yes.
know, childbirth, like childbearing, is not an easy task. And when
Mm.
you turn up to a hospital, you expect to leave with your child. And that is why I'm so incensed by the silence, what I feel is a conspiracy of silence from
Yes.
the Minister of Health, from certain aspects of the media, and they know themselves. They know
Yes.
themselves. And that is why I chose pink tonight, because as a man, of course, I feel it. I feel it, let alone those who have been involved. It's not something that you would wish on not even your worst enemy. It's a pain that never goes away for a great deal of women. And on top of that, we know that the maternal mortality rate is at its lowest ever. Oh,
Yes.
sorry, maternal mortality rate is at its highest.
Yes.
Highest
So we,
in the last
so we,
50 years.
yeah. So we definitely empathize with the mothers at this time, and the persons who are heartbroken and feeling that there are answers that need to be had. You know, they're not having the answers. Um, maybe I'll try to get hold of Mr. Tufton and bring him on. And ask him some questions, if anything. I put actually feel out to him as well. What can I say?
Now he's been the artful dodger, a man who
Yes.
hogs the limelight more than any other minister. He's the
Mm,
artful dodger now.
yes.
Anyhow,
Yes. Yes. Okay, Martin. Well, listen. Thank you so much
indeed,
for coming on, and take care, and thanks for this break. And we'll have some more discussion leading up to the mother of all elections in Jamaica.
that was in 1980. Anyhow.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you, buddy. Thank you. Cheers. Bye bye. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining this brief discussion that I had with Mr. Matunda McCullough. Mr. Matunda McCullough is a former acting public defender in Jamaica and is a practicing barrister in the UK. So, without further ado, have a good night and thank you very much. Bye bye.